I used to live in a smaller rural town. It was pretty removed but still had a lot of good shopping, eating options, and public spaces. We even had a few breweries and bars. It was a newly hip place, with farming on the outskirts, so I could get my eggs and veggies fresh from the source. The pandemic really hurt business locally though, and pretty much the only regular delivery options were Walmart and Amazon for a while. I was pretty happy when, much later, more local options popped up on various apps. However, at that time, for main necessities and grocery items, there weren't any options besides getting a store delivery from the Walmart a town over. This meant a lot of people we didn't know well popping through, and it drove some of the older folks crazy, with everyone in the neighborhood talking about cars and people they didn't recognize, etc. I embraced it. It made my life easier. It was great for a bit. At this point, I lived with my teenage son, who was a towering 6'4", and my then boyfriend, who was staying to be near his elderly parents. He was 6'3" and broadly built. It was a tiny space, and I felt a little cramped with the big guys always around. So, once in a while, I'd send them off on an errand, or they'd visit my boyfriend's parents, giving me some space to work on things, or just enjoy being alone. One of those days, I got a delivery. I recognized the guy and said hi. I tipped him well and went about my life. An hour later, he was back at my door. He was kind of weird. He was creepy because I had steps in front of my door, but no porch. He would knock and stand beside the steps, where I couldn't see him through the peephole. But I could see him through my window he was next to. So I talked through the window and asked him if he needed something. He kept trying to look for where my voice was coming from before answering and telling me he forgot a bag in the delivery. I confirmed I got it all and thanked him. He left. I didn't want to open the door again after he noticed I was alone. I got new neighbors directly in the unit across from me. They had a Ring camera. She reached out to me and told me someone came by knocking and had sat on my steps for about half an hour. I was down at my boyfriend's house with my son at the time, and she sent me the Ring cam video. It looked like that guy, and it was like 8 p.m. I didn't have any open orders either. I reached out to Walmart, and they were totally unhelpful. They told me they'd be making sure he didn't deliver anything to me in the future, but wouldn't give me any info I could pass on to security or the police in case anything further happened. I wanted to at least file a report with my security in case anything happened again, because it felt really weird. But they told me the police would need to reach out. I had the feeling it would escalate, and it did. I didn't want to be home alone anymore. I didn't order delivery. I just tried to cover my bases. However, my neighbor did order a delivery, and somehow it came through that guy again. So he was in the property again, even though I was promised they wouldn't send this guy near my address again. He was just 3 feet away from my door. The creepy thing was, I heard it being dropped off and had the urge to look through the peephole and saw him standing right in front of my stairs, looking around my door and living room windows. He stood there for like 5 minutes until my neighbor opened the door to get her groceries, and I told her, "That's the guy from the Ring camera." She contacted Walmart too and asked that he doesn't deliver anything anymore. A few weeks went by, and Christmas was around the corner. I had ordered a few items from Amazon, and they were all arriving together. I knew they were on my front porch. I could hear them being dropped, and the delivery guy knocked. I saw him walk off. My boyfriend was on the couch with his headphones on, working, and I was cooking dinner. I figured I'd grab them in a moment. They were fine on my steps at the moment. There was a camera there, so no one would try to steal it. I finished plating and brought the food in, and as I was setting the plates down, the front doorknob, which wasn't locked, gave a tiny turn. The deadbolt was still latched, but the knob wasn't, and I could hear it. My boyfriend couldn't. I stopped and pointed it out. My boyfriend was completely oblivious to these kinds of things. He took his headphones off, peeking through the top window and said, "Oh, you must be hearing things. No one's touching your doorknob. There's no one out there." He walked over and ripped the door open to show me there wasn't anything there. But there was the guy again, crouched up against the wall under the window, his hand still on the knob, trying to turn it silently. He looked mortified to see my boyfriend opening the door, and when my son came up, he looked really confused. He asked for me. He must have known my name from the deliveries because he used the name I had on my account, which wasn't the name everyone knew me by. My boyfriend asked what he needed, and the guy reached down and picked up the Amazon box and said "delivery" and handed it off, and then left. It was really strange. I explained to my boyfriend that he was not delivering those boxes, they were already there. He had dropped them off, left, and then came back trying to sneak into our house. We took the footage to the police, and I tried to reach out to Walmart. The police told me they reached out to Walmart and just got a bunch of clueless basic customer service agents with no idea how to proceed, and that if he came back, I needed to call them as soon as possible so they could get to him in person. I was really scared though. I was glad he knew I wasn't in the house alone now, but I felt like he might take more drastic measures knowing that too. I didn't know how people like that think, so I was just running through every possible scenario. That night, when I was in bed, I heard a strange shuffling outside. We had a lot of cats running around outside, so I wasn't too alarmed. The next morning, when I was leaving for work, the window screens were both removed and placed beneath the windows. There were handprints smudged all over the glass. There were deep, muddy footprints. I filed another report, and they were similarly unhelpful. Basically, they told me I needed a camera and to stay up to make sure I could see it happen and call in. I didn't even bother contacting Walmart again. They were totally useless. The last thing to happen was when my boyfriend was coming over pretty late. He worked a long day, and he came up around 3 a.m. I knew he was coming, but I was woken up by loud fighting outside. He had pulled into the parking lot, and the stalking guy was hiding under my car. He managed to get under my car when my boyfriend was pulling in. My boyfriend pretended to walk to the door and watched him slide out and try to hide behind the parked cars, but it looked like he was messing with my car. My boyfriend managed to get him on the ground and had him pinned while I called the police. Turned out, there was an AirTag taped under my car. He had been trying to track me away from my house. The guy ended up getting arrested with a mountain of other charges too. I didn't hear anything else from the case. I gave statements and incident report numbers and was told I might need to testify in court, but it never happened. I haven't had any incidents since then.